Hi, I'm Patrick Berg, and today I'm going to be demonstrating the newest tool that our sales department is employing called the Request for Quote Sheet, or the RFQ Requirement Sheet. Most of you will already be very comfortable with this type of document, but I'd like to go through the finer points and show that you really may find some value in using this in different ways and utilizing this tool for sales tactics. The form is basically asking all of the questions that our sales team will inevitably request from you to get a quote started. So to streamline our efforts in sales, we ask that this information be given up front before we begin the quoting process. The time that this saves will be utilized in using sales tactics to help you win jobs that we actually have a shot at winning in the future and increasing everybody's close ratio. I'll run through the functions of this tool now, and if you have any questions at the end of the video, just feel free to give me a call. We can run through it one-on-one, and I can show you anything that you have questions about or any problems that you may be having with the sheet. Thanks for your time and your dedication to Debourgh. Let's get started.
Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to show you is how to actually save this from the email that I send this over with. So the first thing you do is you go and you find the attachment within the email that I send, right-click, hit Save As, and then you can just put this anywhere in your computer that you want. You're going to notice that this is an XLT file. That means that this is a template, so every time you hit the save button, it doesn't let you save over the current form. It's always going to save as a template, and so that you can save over the sheet, but it's never going to save over. So every time you open up this RFQ sheet, it's actually going to open up as what I've sent you the very first time. So you're going to notice that the sheet does say when it was last modified by Debourgh. This is when we last modified it. That is today's date, but obviously as you go forward in the future that's going to change. Actually, that will not change until you download a newer version. And down here you can see it says to make sure that you have the latest version with current updates, please follow this link. All you have to do is just click on this link and it'll open up a new sheet for you, and then you can just save that out again as the template, and that should have any updates that we may have made at that time. So depending on what you're most comfortable doing to get through the sheet, once you're in this first cell, you can tab through the cells to input your data. You're going to notice that you'll get really fast at this after a couple of times and you're really comfortable with it. To come up and just put in the information that you need to put in, your company name and the name of the salesperson, which is you. We've automatically done today's date for you so that when it sends, we know the date that you sent it to us. Budget or quote, I think most of you know what that means. That basically means, is it an active quote or is this a budget number for a GC or architect? The quote due date, that's very important. We always want to know the most accurate due date possible. So anytime you send this to us, we know when to get it to you. I'm just going to throw in a date here. The target install date, again, that's a really important date for us to know. That's the date that they anticipate actually having this install, and so we know when we need to ship. And it's going to be increasingly more important to know the most accurate date on that as possible. The market, this is something that you can either input something. I don't stop you from putting in a special market here. But we do have drop downs. You're going to notice that a lot of these are drop down, and so the ability to do a drop down tells you all of the different types of markets that you can choose from if you're not sure. Moving on, these are also very important cells. The job name, so that's going to be the school or whatever job name this is, and the city, state, and zip. Those are all manual inputs. Now coming down here, this is the construction type for the type of lockers that you're requesting, either formed or angle iron. If you're not sure if it's formed or angle iron, I've actually got links to these that are going to pop up. You're going to notice this every time you try to open up one of our PDF files. It's going to say that these could be harmful. Are you sure you want to open it? That's just it's because of the type of file that we're opening, and Excel is wary of opening anyone's PDF files, and so you can just go ahead and say OK and let this open up. My computer's running a little slow today, and this is just going to give a quick description of whatever you're doing. I've got a lot of links throughout the sheet. This shows what formed means with a quick picture and a quick example of what we mean by our formed construction. Same thing for the angle iron. I say OK because I know it doesn't have a virus. And it's just a quick description of what we mean by angle iron construction, so you know what you're asking for if you're not familiar. These cells are actually clickable, and to take them back off you just have to click back on them again. The specification strength, this means that the spec that you have, it's either a Debourgh or it's competitive, weak, or none. You can go through and you can look at the description of what we pop up for each type. Each one is going to have a different description explaining what those are for and what that means. The customer type is either public or private, so again, most of you know what that means is you're either working with a public bid or it's private. Down here we want to know who you're working with. Are you working directly with the architect or the GC, the owner? The more information you can get us, the better. If you can put their name, their phone number, and their email address, that's really helpful for us, because then we can come back and we can actually help you contact the firm and the actual project manager on that job. If that's information that you have, that just helps us to collect a database so that we can start really strengthening our relationships with the architects. Coming down, does this customer already have a Debourgh product? Yes or no? So are you selling to a school that already has lockers in it that have been built by Debourgh? Has a locker demonstration been provided? So that's one that if you've gone to the office and you talked to the principal, or you went to a GC or an architect and you've done that demonstration, we do have the incentive programs for those, the full-size locker presentation incentives. If you haven't done one and you want to get one set up and you want somebody from the office to come out, you have Jay Bender come out and do a full-size locker presentation, say yes, and then give us some information on who to contact. This could be your name, phone, and email, on setting up a trip for someone from the factory to come out and actually help you out with a full-size locker presentation. This is a bit new for us. We're asking what your confidence level is that you'll win this job. This is something that if you were to be putting in zeros and say that you have no confidence in winning the job, I think you'd agree that it's something that, you know, we want to know why we would even be quoting it at that point. You know, if you have no confidence, but you want to be building a relationship with a GC or an architect who's looking for a number, and there's some really good prospects coming up in the future, tell us that here, and tell us, you know, while we might not win this one, but there's a good reason to do this quote. You know, we're hoping to see a lot more 50s, 75s, 90s, because you've done that work and we've gotten that Debourgh spec. That's not just competitive, not weak. We've actually pushed the spec for a Debourgh product. We know that we're going to win, and this is why. This is actually required in here, telling us the percentage of your confidence on this job and why you have that percentage. Real quick, I want to point out a lot of these cells have pop-up notes. Anything that's got this red triangle on it, if you just hover over that cell, it's going to pop down a note for you to read to better describe why you're filling out that cell and any helpful information on that cell. So moving down, this is all of the information now about the job, where it's going, when it's going to be shipping, what work you've done on it pretty much. And now we've gotten into the part where you tell us what you want us to quote. So down a little bit lower, you're going to see the attachments. You can attach a specification and a drawing. But here is where you can actually input what type of product you want, and you can tell us everything about it that we're going to need to know. Things like the ventilation, the door type, the latching, the size. This is all going to be under this section. You can see here it says no lines of product are currently selected. If you're not quite sure what you want to ask us to quote, you can go through these, and these are all links that have pages on our website that you can actually go to. Jump to a link. It's going to ask me if I'm sure again. I'm going to say okay. It's going to pull up a picture of all of these products with a quick description, and then below the description we're going to have specifications that kind of point out, you know, everything about that product. These are all general specs with a lot of different sizes added into them, but all of you have worked with specs before, so you understand how those work. That's just another sales tool that you're going to be able to use when, you know, maybe you can give us a call, or you can take a look at these, and it just gives us a quick description, and you can look through a spec. This is another resource to a specification and drawings for most of these. So that's a cool little tool that we've added in. Once we know what we want to put in, say we want to do a heavy-duty personnel, you're going to do that button right here. It says Add HDP. Once you hit that button, it's going to add a line of whatever product you want. That could have been a Century Athletic. It could have been a Corregidor. We chose a heavy-duty personnel. If at any point you need to delete that, there's a delete product button right here, and that just takes that line back out. I can always add it back in. Once I start filling it out, all of my drop downs give me the available sizes. So again, these are all opening widths, depths, and heights. This is for the upper unit, this is for the drawer base. I would tell how many units we needed here. I would need to do a width, and let's say you wanted to do a funky width like 254. It's not going to let you. It's going to pop up this message that says you're asking for something outside of our standard offerings. Would you like to retry? Say yeah, go ahead and do this drop down. We have to delete that first. Do your drop down and it'll tell you what we offer in those sizes. Anything outside of our standards here, you can put down in the comments section and say, you know, I really wanted something in this special size, and that's where we would look at it and decide whether it was worth going through specials and get pricing on that. But this does give all of our standard widths, depths, and heights, and all of our options. A lot of these are going to be yes and no's for the heavy duty personnel. If you're not quite sure what these are, again, all of these blue headers, these are links that you can actually jump straight to. These are only JPEG, so it's not going to ask, are you sure? This is just going to jump to a quick example of exactly what you're putting in there. So all of these, let's see, what are those? All these should open up to sites when you've got them, and they should have a picture, and then you can either say yes or no. Most of these are going to be quantities as well. If you wanted more than one security box, you'd say, you know, 1 per unit or 5 per unit. All of these are per unit. We don't give the option to do 100. We're asking how many of these per unit do you want. So make sure that you fill that out correctly. And just as an example, I'll show another line being added. So now we've added a line of Sentry. If you needed both on this project, you can see that this is quite a bit different because there are different options for this product line. So as we go through, again, we've got the links to explain exactly what we mean by these different things. The door stiffener, if you're not quite familiar what a door stiffener is, you can open up this link and it's going to pop a picture with a description. And there are several of these throughout the entire sheet that are just helpful little notes, so that in case you're not quite sure what we're asking, these are good pictures for both you and for the customer to pass along. So again, a lot of these are drop downs. It's going to show you all of the standard offerings. You can go through and tell us everything that you know about the job and how we can quote it, because a lot of these things we're going to need to ask you anyway. Some of them you'll notice that they pop up as standard or none. These are automatic responses because they're kind of the norm. When somebody requests a locker like this, they don't necessarily have electrogalv every single time. So I say none, but we do have options here that you can add in the different options. Something else to note, every time it says standard, this is something where it does take a bit of product knowledge to understand what standard means. So in this case, with a Sentry angle iron, the standard hook configuration is here under this. When you hover over the red triangle, it tells you what that standard is, and if you needed none or extra more than the standard, you'd put that in there. And so we've got several standards. Something to note also, if this were a Sentry 2, a lot of you know that we don't do a door stiffener on the back of the doors with a Sentry 2 latching, and so standard in this case means no door stiffener. So that's something to keep in mind. I tried to put as many of these notes in as possible, so when it says something like standard, you understand that that means not with Sentry 2. And so there are going to be notes throughout the entire tool that should be helping you pick the correct product. As we go down, you know, if this is something that you don't see what you need here, you're not quite sure how to fill this out, you don't really understand how to read a spec or a drawing, and you need some help with that, tell us as much as you can right here in this notes section, and we'll help you with it. You can attach the drawing and the spec, and you can do that right here, and then we can take a look at it for you. What's really important is that we have all of this information sent to us up front, because this is information we need to start the quote, and then we can help you out here. But the more information you can give us here, the higher quality your quote is going to be, and the faster we can get it out. So again, to add an attachment, you're going to click on one of these, and it's going to pop open a browser. These are your documents on your computer, so you'll be able to actually take one of these documents. I'll just grab this one, and it's going to pop in here as an attachment. I can always click here and I can delete if I've maybe added in the wrong one. But you can add up to 4, and you can have up to 10 megabytes of size to send to us. So that's going to encompass most drawings and specs when they've been cut down. Probably not the huge specs that are 140 pages. Those things are going to be harder to send, so that might need to be in a separate email that's labeled for this job. And then we ask you to put your email in here. This is so that we can get a hold of you. Whatever request you've sent in, this is so that we can get a hold of you. And a copy of this entire thing that's going to be sent to sales@Debourgh. This is also going to be sent to this email here. Oh. Alright, and it's not going to let you send this email until all of this information is filled out. So let me show you an example. This, if I didn't have the city in here and I tried to send, it's going to bark at you and say, hey, that city is required. You need to fill all of these out. There are several required fields. So you want to make sure that we go through and we fill out all of these cities, or not cities, all of these cells. All of this is required for this to send in. So now we should have all of the information that we need. I hit email at Debourgh. It says the reason for competence level. So I forgot to tell us why. Well, because we want as good of a reason here as possible. When you get a second, make sure you come back and read some of these notes. These are helpful. And I'm going to hit email. It's going to ask me if I'm sure. I say I sure am. And then it's going to say it was sent successfully. So after about a minute, you're going to get an email in your inbox as well. And here at salesdebourgh.com, we'll receive your request. We'll respond back to you to let you know that you got it, and we will get on your quote right away. If you have any questions at all, you should see my contact information on the screen right now. Please give me a call. I'd be happy to go through this one-on-one. There are tons of special little things that you can do with this. I like to use this as a sales tool. When I'm talking to people, I can show them pictures, I can show them examples. This is something people can kind of play with to learn more about our product. So please give me a call if you have any questions. All of our sales team and marketing and everyone knows how to work this, and so ask us questions, and if there's anything else we can help with, please let us know. Thank you so much for your time today. I look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.